Hey, Morningstar, coming to you from sunny Florida, down in Tampa this week at something called Exponential Conference. It's the largest gathering of church planters, past, present, and in future in America. And some of the top names, honestly, of pastors from around the world who have done great jobs at kind of building disciples, not just growing churches, but multiplying churches, churches that birth other churches, that birth other churches, and leaders that make other disciples and make disciples and make disciples. That's really what the Great Commission is all about. Not to go and build churches, but to go and make disciples who will change the world. So it's been amazing, some of the information, some of the challenge being prayed over and stretched and inspired. And as you can see, we're pretty safe here. We're not really in a jungle. We're in the back of a house here. There's a little pool over here to the side. I'm going to jump in as soon as I get done, take my shirt off, and cage around us, so it's really safe. Very much unlike the rest of the world this past week, right? I mean, the earthquake in Nepal, 5,500 people dead, still looking for survivors. Please, I hope we're praying for the people of Nepal, the families of those who've been lost, survivors, and then just the refugees who are kind of being huddled into these camps and disease spreading. Lots of prayer needs there. The people of Baltimore, they need our prayers following the death of Eddie Gray, right? I mean, we know what that's about in Ferguson. That actually led to what I want to kind of touch on real quickly, and that's the weirdest baseball game ever played. It was a Wednesday in Baltimore, the Baltimore Orioles against the Chicago White Sox, in front of a crowd of 0. Not one person in the stands. 45,000 empty seats. They played the game, told everybody in Baltimore, stay home, stay inside, don't get out. The Orioles lost over $1 million of revenue, which probably for them isn't that big of a deal, but for the hotels and restaurants and the vendors and the people who work there in Camden Yards, the professional stadium there, I can imagine that, you know, one game was a big hit for them. But the players talked about how weird it was. And you can imagine, right? They're used to playing in front of 30, 40, 50,000 people every night. And now all of a sudden it feels like they're 7 years old and playing wiffle ball in their backyard because nobody is around. And I thought about, as Christians, you know, we come to worship on the weekends. And we've got this big crowd that, you know, hundreds of people that are around us. And it's kind of easier to play, you know, in front of a crowd. You know, to give God, you know, our best, to kind of give Him our gratitude, to give Him our praise, to really pray and lean into trusting Him for His provision in our life. And yet we go out, and the question is one of integrity, right? Who are we in front of a crowd? Who are we when there's nobody else around? But the truth is, as Christians, we're not called to play to the crowd, but neither do we play to an audience of 0, right? Because we play to an audience of 1. Because our God is with us wherever we go, whatever we're doing. And some people might look at that as, wow, man, God's always, you know, keeping tabs, and it shouldn't be a scary thing. I mean, if we're a Christ follower, it is great news that God is with us because God loves us and He's for us. And He's not only with us kind of out here, but He's with us in here. And that audience of 1 that we live our life to, it is also helping us live that life. He's given us His Spirit, that He who is in us is greater than he who is in the world. The Spirit of the living Christ is our hope, the hope of our glory, who's giving us the power and provision to live the life that God has created us to live. And that's great news. So as you're going about your week and your weekend, be the church, because, you know, wherever we are, we're the church. Church is not a building. Church isn't a worship service. Play to the audience of 1. Be the church this week. Remember that He's with you. He loves you. He's for you. And I can't wait to be in worship with you this weekend. God bless you.